The road stretches out endlessly before you, the night cloaking the world in darkness. You've probably heard about the dangers of driving alone late at night. The isolation, the emptiness, and the creeping feeling that you're not as alone as you think. Tonight, we'll take a deep dive into the terrifying unknown with 3 stories of night drives gone horribly wrong. These tales are based on real accounts, shared by those brave enough to speak of the horrors that stalk the lonely highways. They thought they were on a simple drive until they entered the realm of Mr. Scary Guy. Prepare yourself for a journey beyond the ordinary, into the shadows of your deepest fears. Welcome to the world of Mr. Scary Guy. I've always loved driving at night. The open road, the quiet, the hum of the engine. It gives me time to think, to unwind after a long day. But this night felt different. There was a tension in the air, something I couldn't shake. I was heading home after visiting my sister, a long drive through empty highways and desolate roads. The moon had disappeared behind thick clouds, leaving the world shrouded in darkness. The trees blurred into black shapes as my car sped past, and I was thankful for the solitude. That is, until I noticed them. Headlights in my rearview mirror. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just another late-night traveler like me. But something was off. The headlights stayed at the same distance, never gaining on me, never falling back. It was like the car was pacing me. I shook my head, trying to brush it off. Maybe it was my imagination, or maybe they were just going my way. I turned up the radio, hoping some music would drown out my thoughts. But the further I drove, the more those headlights haunted me. Every time I glanced in the mirror, they were there, unwavering, like a predator stalking its prey. The clock on my dashboard read 11:42 p.m. Still miles from home. I decided to test my theory. I pressed down on the gas, watching the needle climb to 75 miles per hour. I expected to leave the headlights behind, to see them fade into the distance. But they didn't. They stayed right with me, matching my speed perfectly. My heart started racing. There was no denying it now. Someone was following me. I tried to stay calm. Maybe they'd pass me. Maybe this was all just some weird coincidence. But the longer I drove, the more dread settled into my bones. I needed to do something. Up ahead, I saw a sign for a rest stop. 5 miles. I decided to pull over, take a break, and see if they'd keep going. Surely, they wouldn't follow me into the rest stop. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I made my way off the highway. The soft crunch of gravel under my tires, the only sound in the otherwise dead silent night. I parked under a dim streetlight, the flickering bulb casting weak shadows over the lot. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting the car to be gone. But no, they followed me. They pulled into the lot, parking at the far end, their headlights still on. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't see inside the car, the glare too bright, but I knew they were watching me. I considered getting out, walking over, confronting whoever was inside. But something deep inside screamed at me to stay put. My gut told me this was no ordinary driver. The minutes dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, jolting me from my thoughts. I grabbed it, seeing my sister's name flash on the screen. Relief washed over me as I answered.
Rick, what's going on?
She asked, her voice groggy from sleep. There's this car, I stammered, glancing again at the other vehicle. It's been following me for miles. I pulled into a rest stop, and they're still here. I don't know what to do. She paused for a moment.
Are you sure? Maybe it's just a coincidence?
No, I whispered. They're not leaving. As I spoke, the headlights of the car across the lot turned off, plunging the area into darkness. My breath caught in my throat. I strained my eyes, trying to see any movement, but it was too dark.
Rick, are you still there?
My sister's voice cut through the silence. Yeah, I'm here, I muttered, my heart pounding in my chest. And then I saw a figure stepping out of the car. They moved slowly, deliberately, like they had all the time in the world. My stomach twisted into knots as they started walking toward me. "I have to go," I blurted into the phone, hanging up before she could respond. I fumbled for the keys, my hands shaking as I started the engine. Without a second thought, I floored the gas pedal, tearing out of the lot and back onto the highway. The figure stopped, standing in the middle of the road, watching me speed away. I didn't dare look back. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror, the headlights were back. They had returned, chasing me once again. My pulse quickened, my palms slick with sweat as I pressed harder on the gas. The road stretched endlessly before me, but no matter how fast I drove, the car behind me stayed right on my tail. I could feel their presence like a shadow, always there, always watching. Then, the radio flickered to life, static filling the car. I jumped, gripping the wheel tighter. A voice, distorted and low, crackled through the speakers.
"Keep driving, Rick. You can't escape."
How did they know my name? I yanked the volume knob, but it didn't stop. The voice continued, haunting me, chilling me to the core.
"Rick, you'll never get away."
The headlights behind me grew brighter, closer. Panic surged through my veins as I tried to think of what to do. I couldn't keep running. My fuel gauge was already dipping into the red. And then I saw it, the faint glow of a town up ahead. Safety. I pushed the car to its limit, racing toward the lights, my heart hammering in my chest. But as I approached the town's outskirts, the headlights behind me vanished. Just like that. Gone. I pulled into a gas station, my hands trembling as I parked under the neon sign. I glanced around, but the road behind me was empty. No car, no headlights, nothing. For a moment, I let myself breathe. It was over. I was safe. But as I stepped out of the car, I saw it. A figure standing in the shadows, just beyond the gas station's lights, watching me. I wasn't alone. Not anymore. Driving at night has always been my thing. There's something calming about the open road, the stars above, the solitude. But tonight, I couldn't shake this creeping feeling in the back of my mind. Something was wrong. I was on my way home after visiting some friends in a small town about 2 hours away. The route was familiar, a rural stretch of road that I'd driven countless times. But tonight, it felt different. The fog had rolled in thick, and my headlights barely cut through the mist. The world outside the car seemed to fade into nothingness. It was getting late, 12:30 a.m. The dashboard clock's glowing numbers seemed to taunt me with how much road I had left to cover. I turned on the radio, hoping for some music to distract me from the eerie stillness outside. Just as I was settling into the drive, I saw her. Standing by the side of the road, barely visible through the fog, was a young woman. I slowed down, squinting to get a better look. She was wearing a white dress, her arm raised in a hitchhiker's gesture. Her hair was damp, hanging over her face. My heart skipped a beat. Who would be out here on a road like this in the middle of the night? I should have kept driving. But something about her, I don't know. I felt like I had to stop. Rolling down the window just a crack, I called out, "Do you need a ride?" She nodded, stepping toward the car. I unlocked the door, and she slipped into the passenger seat without a word. That's when I noticed something odd. The temperature in the car dropped instantly. I could see my breath in the air. The woman didn't say anything, didn't even look at me. She just stared straight ahead, her pale hands resting in her lap. I cleared my throat, trying to shake the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. "Where are you headed?" She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper.
"Just keep driving."
A cold knot of fear settled in my stomach. Something was off. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. Her dress looked wet, clinging to her as if she'd been caught in a downpour. I swallowed hard and nodded, pulling back onto the road. The silence in the car was thick, oppressive. I tried to make small talk, asking her where she was coming from, if she lived nearby, but she only gave vague, one-word answers. Something about her presence made my skin crawl. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The fog seemed to grow thicker, swirling around the car in strange patterns. The road ahead was barely visible, just a black void waiting to swallow us whole. Then out of nowhere, she spoke again, her voice trembling.
They're coming for me.
My heart skipped a beat. What? Who's coming for you? Her head turned slowly, and for the first time I saw her face clearly. Her eyes were wide, hollow, filled with terror.
Please, you have to help me.
My blood ran cold. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my hands shaking. Help you? What are you talking about? But before she could answer, the car's engine sputtered. The headlights flickered, and then everything went dark. The car coasted to a stop, the world around us silent except for the distant rumble of thunder. I panicked, fumbling for the keys to restart the engine, but nothing happened. My heart pounded in my chest as I glanced over at the passenger seat. She was gone. The seat was empty. I stared at the spot where she had been sitting just seconds before, my mind racing. How had she vanished? The door hadn't opened. I hadn't heard a sound. She was just gone. I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call for help, but there was no signal. I was alone, stranded in the middle of nowhere. The fog outside thickened, pressing against the windows. I could barely see a few feet in front of the car, but then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something. A shape moving through the mist. My breath caught in my throat as the figure emerged from the fog. It was her, the woman. She was standing in the middle of the road, staring at me with those same hollow, terrified eyes. My hands shook as I turned the key again, praying the engine would start. This time it roared to life, and I slammed my foot on the gas, speeding down the road as fast as I could. My heart was pounding, my mind racing. What the hell had just happened? Who was she? The radio crackled to life, filling the car with static. I jumped, my pulse racing as I reached for the volume knob. But before I could turn it off, a voice came through, distorted and low.
She's waiting for you.
I yanked my hand back, staring at the radio in disbelief. My mind raced, panic surging through me. I glanced in the rearview mirror, but the road behind me was empty. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I sped through the fog, my heart racing with every mile. But no matter how far I drove, I couldn't escape the lingering sense of dread. She was out there, somewhere, watching me. Waiting for me. I'd been driving for hours. The empty highway stretches on and on, the yellow lines disappearing into the darkness ahead. I'm exhausted. My shift ran late, and now, all I want is to get home, crawl into bed, and forget this night ever happened. It's past midnight. The road below is nothing but blackness. It's just me and the empty highway. Or at least that's what I thought. As I round a bend, I see something, a figure standing in the middle of the road. My heart leaps into my throat. I slam on the brakes, tires screeching as the car skids to a stop. For a moment I just sit there, my breath catching in my chest as I try to make sense of what I'm seeing. It's a man, tall, thin, dressed in a long dark coat. His face is obscured by shadows, but there's something about the way he's standing. Too still, too rigid. My instincts scream at me that something's wrong. I should call out to him, ask if he's okay, but I can't. My mouth feels dry, my throat tight with fear. Instead, I sit there, gripping the wheel, watching him through the windshield. And then, without warning, he's gone. 1 second, he's there, and the next, he's vanished into thin air. I blink, rubbing my eyes, trying to make sense of what just happened. Was it my imagination? Am I that tired? I put the car back in drive, my heart still racing, and continue down the road. But now, every shadow feels like a threat. I keep checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see him standing there again, watching me. And then I do. He's there. Standing by the side of the road this time, watching me as I drive past. My breath catches in my throat, and I glance back. But he's gone again. Just like that. I can't explain it. My mind races with possibilities, but none of them make sense. Who is he? What does he want? The road stretches on, each mile feeling longer than the last. I can't shake the feeling that something's following me, watching me. The man appears again and again, sometimes in the distance, sometimes right beside the road. Each time he's just standing there, motionless, staring at me. My heart races as I try to keep my focus on the road, but the fear gnaws at me, making it hard to breathe. Every time I glance in the mirror, I expect to see him right behind me. But he's not. At least, not yet. The figure's appearances grow more frequent, more unnerving. He's closer now, standing in the middle of the road, forcing me to swerve around him. My hands are slick with sweat, my chest tight with fear. I can't keep doing this. I need to get out of here. I press harder on the gas, trying to put as much distance between us as possible. But no matter how fast I drive, he's always there, lurking just beyond the edge of the headlights. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I see him, standing in the middle of the road, directly in my path. I slam on the brakes, my car skidding to a halt just inches from where he's standing. This time, he doesn't vanish. He's there, staring at me with hollow, lifeless eyes. I can't take it anymore. I hit the gas, swerving around him, my heart pounding in my chest. The road blurs before me as I speed away, but when I glance in the mirror, I see him again, standing in the distance, watching me leave. The radio crackles to life, static filling the car. A voice, low and guttural, echoes through the speakers, sending chills down my spine.
You can't escape.
I grip the wheel tighter, my breath coming in short, panic gasps. I don't know what to do, where to go. The figure is everywhere, haunting me, chasing me. The road ahead feels endless, the darkness pressing in on all sides. You can't escape. The voice fills my mind, wrapping around me like a vice. I can feel him now, closer than ever, watching me, waiting for me. And then, as the clock on the dashboard ticks past 3 a.m., the car's engine sputters and everything goes dark. And there you have it. 3 terrifying tales of what can happen when you're alone on the road at night. Remember, the darkness can hide many things, and not all of them are friendly. So next time you're out there driving under the cover of night, keep an eye on the road ahead and behind. You never know what might be lurking just beyond the glow of your headlights. This is Mr. Scary Guy saying, good night, and if you dare, drive safely. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe by clicking the icon above. We've also got a playlist full of scary stories on your left side, and a suggested video you'll love on the right. Choose one and keep the scares going.